I'm sorry, did you think for even a single second that I was remotely ready to stop talking about 2025? 2025 was an insane year for indie games and indie adjacent titles. If anything, they kind of carried the entire year. Silksong, Hades 2, and Citizen Sleeper 2 were all worthy successors to some of the greatest games from the past few years. Blueprints managed to push the boundaries of what both roguelites and puzzle games are capable of being. Date Everything and Dispatch proved that there was still a mainstream commercial interest in dating sims and visual novels, while Ball Pit and Megabong proved that it's still possible to make a good bullet heaven game in a post-Vampire Survivors world as long as you have even a single original idea. I didn't end up playing Consume Me or Despelode, but they, much like And Roger, seem like phenomenal narrative experiences pushing the boundaries of what stories video games are capable of telling and how they are capable of telling them, while Peak managed to establish itself as the must-play multiplayer game in a year that gave us multiple medium-defining AAA multiplayer experiences, and The Alters is probably the single game that I most regret missing out on this year. And that is just the games that got nominated during awards season. Oh, and Deltarune. You have to mention Deltarune. It's never gonna win any awards because of its release format, but it is still one of the greatest games ever made, at least so far. Me personally, I played a lot of indie games, probably more than I could possibly count, and certainly more than I could have fit into a Game of the Year list that already featured 7 indie titles. 8 if you want to count Clair Obscure, which you probably shouldn't. But with so many great titles coming out this year, I just couldn't stop there. In the hopes of ensuring that the list had a little something for everyone, I tried to avoid games I saw getting nominated for awards and generating tons of online buzz, and I aimed for the widest possible variety rather than a more traditional top 10 favorite games of 2025 list. Personally, I'm very excited, so without further ado, let's see if I can get literally anyone else to play a game I like this week. While the gaming community at large had their eye on the meteoric rise of Peak, a phenomenal co-op game that deserved every bit of love it got, the game's publisher Landfall's other big 2025 release was receiving slightly less attention. Which is a damn shame because this game is awesome. Haste Broken Worlds is an intense, tough as nails, fast as hell, speedrunning focused 3D platformer. It's more like a platforming hybrid at best. With a multiverse spanning story, an incredible cast of memorable characters, this is my goat, and some really fun implementations of roguelite elements. The game is a mechanical successor to Cluster Truck. Remember Cluster Truck? And if you like Cluster Truck, holy shit, dude, you're gonna love Haste. The team at Landfall Games has long had a deep understanding of the inherent satisfaction of constant momentum and blazing speeds, and Haste Broken Worlds manages to provide both in spades, with an incredibly satisfying and increasingly difficult gameplay loop that remained deeply fun for the 22 hours I played. It also, unfortunately, has some of the worst boss fights in any game I have ever played. A fact that I am only able to overlook because everything else about this game is fucking incredible. And speaking of intense, fast-paced, and deeply satisfying games, in a year full of gorgeous, exciting, genre-pushing racing games, and also Mario Kart World, a small-scale, independent, mascotless F-Zero and Wipeout-inspired racing game launching on the same day as Mario Kart World and the long-awaited F-Zero GX re-release probably isn't gonna get a lot of attention. Which is a shame, because Fast Fusion might just be the best racing game that came out all year. Although I will gladly hear arguments for Kirby Air Riders. It's almost definitely the best looking. This is a fast-paced, high-intensity racing game that takes players through some of the most beautiful and intricately designed racetracks I have ever seen. Everything about this game is just breathtaking. The way that sunlight filters into the depths of a canyon, the awe of seeing an entire forest fly past you in seconds as you speed between the trees, the sudden reveal of a massive tornado appearing through the fog as you race directly into the eye of the storm. Every track is impressive, beautiful, and imaginative, and despite its near incomprehensible speeds, Fast Fusion makes the most of every second of its beauty. When the Switch 2 initially launched, I named Fast cast Fusion as the game to play if you want a showcase of the system's graphical capabilities in both handheld and on the TV. And even after 6 months of gorgeous looking games, and also Pokemon Legends ZA, I still stand by this statement. This is a very impressive game. But you know what other title shocked me with its visuals this year? Skate Story. I've never been the biggest fan of skateboarding games, mostly because I don't have any pre-existing emotional attachment to real-world skateboarding. I had some fun with a few of the more quintessential titles, but none of them ever really clicked with me until Skate Story. And it's not even because of the skateboarding. Don't get me wrong, the skateboarding gameplay has been polished to near perfection and could easily stand alongside, if not directly above, the best the genre has to offer. But what makes Skate Story uniquely impressive and what hooked me personally was the story and visuals. This is a deeply beautiful game, both visually and narratively. Steeped in complex metaphor and existential dread, it is one of the most impressive visual and narrative experiences in a year full of impressive visual and narrative experiences. And despite its high concepts and visual and narrative complexity, the game somehow still manages to not only mesh perfectly with the skateboarding gameplay, but actually be narratively elevated by it, which is an impressive feat all its own. Skate Story has set a new standard for what a skating game is capable of being, and in an era that is seemingly seeing an unprecedented revival of every major skating game franchise and the birth of a few new ones, I would like to see anyone even try to top what sole developer Sam Eng has managed to achieve with this game. Of course, if we're talking about games that push the boundaries of what their genre is capable of being, we have to at least mention Rhythm Doctor. 2025 was a great year for rhythm games specifically. A ton of unique and interesting titles came out this year, primarily in the indie scene, and as surprising as it may sound given my personal history with the genre, I kind of ended up playing almost none of them. But I did play Rhythm Doctor. Rhythm Doctor is a Rhythm Heaven-inspired single-button rhythm game that I initially overlooked because of its deceptive simplicity. But in the hopes of adding even a single rhythm game to this list, I ended up giving it a shot, and I'm very glad that I did. Upon booting it up, Rhythm Doctor almost immediately established itself as one of the most mechanically creative games I have ever played. The way that the developers at 7th Beat Games managed to bend and twist Rhythm Doctor's single-button gameplay in so many unique and interesting ways will be studied for generations. There are ideas and mechanics that I have never seen any other game even attempt. Individual levels are so diverse and unique from one another that they may as well be from completely separate games. There is a mechanic present in multiple boss fights that I did not even know was a technological possibility. Rhythm Doctor is top to bottom a marvel of game design, and without a doubt, one of the most technically impressive games to come out of this seeming rhythm game renaissance. And at this point, Nintendo might as well cancel Rhythm Heaven Groove because there is no world where it lives up to this. I don't know if I would necessarily call Rhythm Doctor the greatest rhythm game ever made. I mean, it's not even my personal favorite, but it is by far one of the most unique and innovative games to come out of a genre known for pumping out dozens, if not hundreds, of one-of-a-kind experiences every single year. And it does it all with only a single button. If nothing else, that is very impressive. And if you're a fan of very simple ideas implemented in ways that allow them to stand up to the best their genres have to offer, oh boy do I have the fighting game for you. The unfortunate challenge that comes with recommending indie games is how often you feel the need to preface your recommendation with some variation of, alright guys, hear me out on this one. And A Few Quick Matches is absolutely a hear me out game. It is a fast-paced, shockingly complex platform fighter inspired by those stick fight animations that were all the rage in the early 2010s. And it is very fun. As the name implies, it's not the most content-rich game. There's only 4 characters and 6 stages, at least at the time of recording, and not a ton of content outside the core platform fighting gameplay. But that lack of content is A, seemingly a temporary issue as we have already seen multiple free updates, and B, allows the 2-person development team to place greater focus on polishing each individual character to near perfection. perfection. In a genre where it's easy to feel like you've already seen every possible idea a million times, a few quick matches manages to create entire movesets that feel completely new. There is so much creativity present in the character design. Individual moves are impressive all on their own, and then they manage to synergize shockingly well with every part of each character's kit. The amount of options you have in every situation is genuinely astonishing, and they interact with one another with a speed and fluidity usually reserved for more traditional fighting games. This simple but satisfying art style, complex and creative movesets, and fast and fluid gameplay all result in a fighting game that is fun to watch and a joy to play. It's not exactly a replacement for something like Smash or Rivals of Aether 1, not 2, but it is a very solid and unique addition to a genre that desperately needs more games that aren't just trying to be another Super Smash Bros. Melee. And at this price point, it is a must-have title for any fan of the platform fighting genre, and one that manages to be consistently fun for far longer than the name implies. And speaking of games that stayed fun for way longer than they had any right to, guess what this one's about? A game about digging a hole is indeed a game about digging a hole, and very little else. It is an incremental simulation game where you dig a hole, collect rocks and precious metals, sell those rocks and metals, upgrade your shovel, and dig a bigger hole. Wash, rinse, repeat. There is a semblance of mechanical depth here, multiple separate upgrade lines, near constant resource management mechanics, the barest hint of a deeper underlying narrative with themes about greed and excess, but if we're being completely honest here, everyone who played this game played it for one single reason: the universal human urge to dig a big fucking hole and just see how deep you can get. And a game about digging a hole offers the opportunity to satisfy this urge in spades. Get it? Spades? Ah! And as long as we're on the topic of inexpensive, bite-sized weirdo shit for weirdos, let's talk about Nubby's Number Factory. If Blueprints, Ball Pit, and Mega Bonk weren't enough to satisfy you sick roguelite fucks, might I suggest another weird, quirky roguelite that combines traditional rogue-inspired elements with a genre that I never expected to see roguelitify. Nubby's Number Factory is a, get this, Plinko-inspired roguelite that seemingly combines the best parts of Peggle and Balatro to create the dumbest game anyone has ever made. The gameplay is very simple. Grab a ball, drop a ball, watch the numbers go up, win a round, get an upgrade, and progress to the next stage. It is a very simple game with a very addictive gameplay loop that seems perfectly designed to pick up and play for a couple minutes every time you have a couple extra minutes. And the perfect game to play while procrastinating a video that you really should be working on right now. Who said that? And moving from short games played in short bursts to short games played in one single sitting, let's talk about Time Flies. Time Flies is a game about a time that flies. No, I think that's right. It's another one of those list-focused games like Untitled Goose Game or Little Kitty Big City, where the game gives you a to-do list full of ill-defined, unexplained tasks that operate less like a list of chores and more like a series of obtuse puzzles that you need to solve in creative and unorthodox ways. But where the Goose Game leans more comedic and the Cat Game leans more cute, Time Flies is fully existential. Playing into the infamously short lifespans of many real-life fly species, Time Flies provides you with roughly 60 to 80 seconds to complete each level, 1 second for each year of the average human lifespan in the country you live in. You have to complete the entire to-do list within the time limit. If you fail by even a single second, even a single task, the fly you are playing as dies, and you need to start over with the next one. This framing turns the to-do list into a bucket list and turns a would-be cozy game into a race against the clock. Can you complete all the tasks before your time is up, and how many flies will have to die with dreams unfulfilled before you finally pull it off? Time Flies tasks you with helping the most insignificant of creatures live the most meaningful and fulfilling of lives, dying with uncharacteristic dignity and the satisfaction of a life well lived. And then it challenges you to do the same with your own life. What a beautiful fucking game. But that is more than enough existentialism. Let's talk cozy. Squeakross is a cozy interior decorating puzzle game that combines the core gameplay of Picross and Animal Crossing. The Sims? Unpacking? Some sort of home designer game. The game sees you solving an increasingly difficult series of furniture-themed nonograms, unlocking the corresponding furniture, and using that furniture to decorate a silly little house for your silly little mouse. It is a very cute game and a creative evolution of a puzzle game subgenre that hasn't really seen very much innovation since it first made that initial jump from pen and paper to bits and processors. Not to mention being the rare example of unintentionally cozy game that exists for any reason other than to trick casual gamers into buying another mediocre farming sim. So if you're looking for a silly little puzzle game to pick up and play for a few minutes every day, and I really do mean every single day, look at how many levels there are, I genuinely cannot recommend Squeakross enough. I mean, just look at this stupid face. Surely that alone is enough to justify buying the game. And ending it all with my absolute favorite game on the list, let's actually talk about a farming game. The older I get, I say that like I'm not in my early 20s, the harder I find it to get legitimately invested in farming games, especially in a post-Stardew Valley world. I find that many of them don't have the content or mechanical depth to justify investing time, money, or energy that I could spend finishing 10 other games, or studying for my classes, or going outside for the first time ever. But Grimshire had me hooked from the second I heard its premise. I've repeatedly heard Grimshire described as Stardew Valley, but with life or death stakes. And aside from being one of the funniest elevator pitches I've ever heard, it's also a shockingly accurate description. Like many other farming games, Grimshire sees you playing the part of the latest resident in a small, isolated village. You take over the town's abandoned farm and spend your days doing fulfilling work and honest labor. Fishing, foraging, talking to the other villagers, tending your crops, raising your animals, fixing up the farm, really everything you would expect to be doing in a farming game. The Stardew Valley comparisons are inevitable, largely because the game doesn't seem interested in hiding its inspirations, but what sets Grimshire apart from the rest of the genre is its twist. The nation your village is in has fallen, succumbed to war, disease, famine. Trade is impossible. Food security is non-existent. The military is taking from your neighbors to support the war effort. You, as the villager's latest resident, sole farmer, and only reliable source of food, stand alone between your community and the cold hands of death. It is now your job to stockpile food for the entire village, and that food needs to last. This one arguably minor contextual change alters every aspect of gameplay. Things like smokers, drying racks, and kitchens that might otherwise go ignored in any other game need to be used religiously or the stockpile is going to spoil. Fishing and foraging remain viable strategies even after your farm is fully set up because every scrap of food could be the difference between life and death. The mines go from being a fun additional challenge to your primary source of income, your one chance to make the money you need to buy crops and farming equipment, because it's not like you can just get rich off of exporting the food you grow. The village needs that. There is no silver bullet perfect resource that you can farm endlessly. No infinite money glitch for you to exploit. The game forces you to be ruthlessly efficient and deeply creative. No food can be wasted. No mechanic can be ignored. No time can be spent without your nose to the grindstone. One bad day, one wasted second, one batch of spoiled food could spell disaster. It is intense, it is overwhelming, it is genuinely exciting, it is some of the most fun I have ever had with any farming game ever, and the crazy part? It's still a very cozy game. It's just a cozy game with stakes. And there you have it. 10 phenomenal indie games from a year with so many great titles that it was genuinely overwhelming. I deeply enjoyed every game I recommended, and I hope that you found something new to play. But just in case you didn't, I'll include some honorable mentions in the pinned comment. Outside of that, I am finally ready to move on from 2025. Happy New Year, enjoy your games, I'll see you all in 2 weeks.
1、2、3